In the heart of Mesoamerica, a golden empire thrived, a civilization of astonishing complexity and power. This was the Aztec Empire, and its magnificent capital, Tenochtitlán, was a marvel of the world, a city of canals, pyramids, and floating gardens, home to hundreds of thousands of people. Its ruler, Moctezuma II, presided over a vast domain, a web of tributary states that paid homage in gold, feathers, and precious stones. The Aztecs were astronomers, poets, and fierce warriors, their society built on a deep and often terrifying cosmic belief system. Their sun god, Huitzilopochtli, demanded constant sacrifice to keep the darkness at bay. This was their world, vibrant, brutal, and seemingly eternal. But across the vast, uncharted ocean, another world was stirring. A world driven by ambition, faith, and an insatiable hunger for gold. In 1519, a fleet of 11 Spanish ships appeared off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula. At their helm was a man of ruthless determination and cunning intellect, Hernán Cortés. A minor nobleman from Extremadura, Spain, Cortés was seeking his fortune in the New World. He was not just a soldier. He was a gambler, a strategist, and a master manipulator, willing to risk everything for glory and riches. He had heard whispers of a wealthy empire deep within the mainland, a kingdom of gold waiting to be claimed for the Spanish crown and for God. Upon landing, Cortés immediately began to gather intelligence. He found a crucial ally in a woman named Malintzin, later known as La Malinche. A noblewoman who had been sold into slavery, she spoke both Nahuatl, the language of the Aztecs, and the Mayan dialect. A shipwrecked Spaniard, Geronimo de Aguilar, who spoke Mayan and Spanish, completed the chain of translation. Through La Malinche, Cortés could now communicate directly with the peoples of this new land. She was more than an interpreter. She became his cultural advisor, his strategist, and a key figure in the unfolding drama, helping him navigate the intricate political landscape of the region. Cortés quickly discovered that the Aztec Empire, for all its power, was not universally loved. Many subjugated peoples, like the Totonacs and the Tlaxcalans, harbored deep resentment towards their Aztec overlords. They were burdened by heavy taxes and the constant demand for human sacrifices. The Tlaxcalans, in particular, were the Aztecs' traditional and unconquered enemies. Seeing an opportunity, Cortés began to forge alliances. After an initial, fierce battle with the Tlaxcalans, he didn't crush them. Instead, he impressed them with his military technology: horses, steel swords, and cannons, things they had never seen before, and offered them a pact. He promised them freedom from Aztec rule. For the Tlaxcalans, this was a chance to finally defeat their age-old rivals. Thousands of their warriors joined Cortés' small army, transforming his expedition from a mere reconnaissance into a full-scale invasion force. As Cortés and his growing army marched inland, word of their advance reached the Emperor Montezuma in Tenochtitlan. Montezuma was a deeply religious man, and he was troubled. Ancient prophecies spoke of the return of the feathered serpent god, Quetzalcoatl, from the east in a year that corresponded to 1519. Were these pale, bearded strangers gods, or just men? Unsure how to react, Montezuma wavered. He sent emissaries bearing magnificent gifts of gold and intricate featherwork, hoping to appease the newcomers and persuade them to turn back. But these lavish gifts had the opposite effect. They confirmed the legends of an empire of immense wealth and only fueled Cortés' determination to reach the capital. In November 1519, the conquistadors and their allies finally laid eyes on Tenochtitlan. They were stunned. The city was larger and more magnificent than any in Europe. Built on an island in the middle of Lake Texcoco, it was connected to the mainland by 3 great causeways. Pyramids and temples towered over gleaming white palaces. It was a vision of paradise. Montezuma, deciding on a path of diplomacy, welcomed Cortés and his men into the city. He housed them in a lavish palace, treated them as honored guests, and showed them the wonders of his capital. For a time, an uneasy peace prevailed. The Spanish marveled at the city's markets and temples, while the Aztecs watched these strange visitors with a mixture of awe and suspicion. But the coexistence was fragile. Cortés, ever the strategist, knew his position was precarious. He and his few hundred Spaniards were deep inside a city of over 200,000 people. In a bold and audacious move, he took Montezuma hostage. He placed the emperor under house arrest within his own palace, effectively seizing control of the empire through its revered leader. Montezuma, either fearing for his life or still believing he was dealing with divine beings, complied, issuing orders on behalf of the Spanish. The tension in the city grew palpable as the Spanish began to assert their authority, demanding gold and forbidding the practice of human sacrifice. The breaking point came when Cortés had to leave the city to deal with a rival Spanish force sent from Cuba to arrest him. He left his hot-headed lieutenant, Pedro de Alvarado, in command. During a major religious festival, Alvarado, fearing an uprising, made a catastrophic decision. He ordered his men to attack the unarmed Aztec nobles and priests celebrating in the Great Temple. It was a massacre. When Cortés returned, having defeated his rivals and absorbed their men into his own army, he found Tenochtitlan in open revolt. The Spanish and their Tlaxcalan allies were now trapped in the palace, besieged by a furious Aztec population. In a desperate attempt to quell the uprising, Cortés forced Montezuma to appear on a balcony and appeal to his people. But his authority was gone. The crowd, feeling betrayed, unleashed a volley of stones and arrows. Montezuma was struck and mortally wounded. He died a few days later, though whether from his injuries or at the hands of the Spanish remains a historical debate. With the emperor dead, the Aztecs' fury was absolute. What followed was the Noche Triste, the Night of Sorrows. On the night of June 30th, 1520, Cortés and his men attempted a desperate escape from the city under the cover of darkness and rain. They tried to muffle the hooves of their horses and use a portable wooden bridge to cross the gaps in the causeways. But they were discovered. Aztec warriors swarmed them from all sides, attacking from canoes on the lake and from the rooftops. The escape turned into a bloody rout. Weighted down by the gold they were trying to carry, many Spaniards drowned or were cut down. Cortés himself barely escaped, and it is said that he wept at the loss of more than half of his men and thousands of his Tlaxcalan allies. But Cortés was not a man to accept defeat. He retreated to the safety of Tlaxcala, where his allies remained loyal. And here, a new, silent, and far more deadly weapon was unleashed upon the Aztecs: smallpox. The disease, carried by one of the Spaniards, had no precedent in the Americas. The native population had no immunity. It swept through Tenochtitlan and the surrounding lands with terrifying speed, killing millions. It wiped out a third or more of the population, including warriors, leaders, and the new emperor who had succeeded Montezuma. The Aztec Empire was critically weakened from within, its social fabric torn apart by a plague it could neither understand nor fight. Over the next year, Cortés systematically regrouped and prepared for his final assault. He built a new fleet of small warships, brigantines, to control Lake Texcoco and cut off the city's supplies. He gathered a massive army, bolstered by tens of thousands of warriors from Tlaxcala and other states, eager to see the fall of their old masters. In May 1521, the siege of Tenochtitlan began. For 3 months, the city endured a brutal assault. The Spanish cut the causeways, blocked the aqueducts, and bombarded the city from their ships. The remaining Aztec defenders, led by their final heroic emperor Cuauhtémoc, fought with incredible bravery for every street and every canal. But starvation, thirst, and disease had taken their toll. Finally, on August 13, 1521, the last pockets of resistance fell. Cuauhtémoc was captured, and the once mighty Aztec Empire was no more. The great city of Tenochtitlan was in ruins. The clash of two worlds had ended in the destruction of one. In the aftermath, courts began to build a new city directly on top of the old one, Mexico City. The stones of the Aztec temples were used to build Christian churches. The canals were filled in. A new society, a fusion of Spanish and indigenous cultures, began to emerge from the ashes. The fall of the Aztecs was a pivotal moment in world history, a dramatic and tragic tale of ambition, courage, misunderstanding, and disease. It marked the end of an era for the Americas and the beginning of a new, complex, and often painful chapter that continues to shape our world today. It was a devastating defeat,